Okay, here's one approach to growing small market garden, particularly with leafy greens, through late spring and summer. First thing is, it's very hard work in this climate, and so there are a couple of different ways of doing it: really low input and low risk, or going fairly intense. This is we usually do both. This is the fairly intense patch. You notice that this whole garden is covered in shade. We find that essential. Notice that the ground surface, apart from the beds that we're planting, is always covered with a mulch. That's essential. You need to make sure you've got a lot of water on hand. We were fortunate with getting some falls of rain which fill the dams. Normally we would have empty dams at this time of year, but this year we have full dams, so that's lucky. We use overhead irrigation as well here for climate control, mainly for evaporative cooling and for keeping this soil surface alive in the hot conditions. The shade's essential for lowering temperatures and lowering radiation. The mulch is essential for lowering soil surface temperatures. We use trickle irrigation as well as the overhead, and this is the way that we use Ttape. And a very, very simple sort of arrangement, 16mm Ttape. We use standard garden fittings for the connections. Obviously we use Ttape connections for anywhere where we use Ttape. So here's some beds ready to go on. They've had compost applied on top of the beds, ready for planting. We've laid the trickle irrigation down here. I'm showing you what they look like before the beds get covered in a heavy mulch. So there's some beds that are covered in heavy mulch over there, ready for planting into. Pretty straightforward. You can use lower expense stuff than what you do in a big setting. This is specific for a very small, intense garden. At the end, we just block off the ends by folding them over and putting a collar over. That means you can quickly whip off that collar, flush out the ends, flush the pipes out, and do checks without expensive fittings. That works perfectly fine. It also works as a way if you want to block off a run somewhere to service it. When you get a hole in a tape, the easiest and quickest way to repair it is just to cut it with a penknife and put in a joiner. Those joiners are reusable. It's quick and it doesn't leak, and all other methods of repairing holes are a waste of time. That's about it. So this is ready to have the mulch put on. Obviously this system has been pressure tested before we put the mulch on, where you can see everything and repair things. Don't assume that you won't have leaks. You will have leaks. So pressure test everything before you put the mulch on. You notice that these are very regular, intense beds. This is only going to be used for very intense planting of leafy greens and lettuce. Right, that's about it. That area is just fed with standard garden hose. An essential thing that we see is because absent-minded people, and you can't tell when the irrigation is on, it's pretty essential. You can see this is very low tech. It's pretty essential to have a timer on your tap to turn it off automatically after an irrigation shift, because you can't tell when you got water on. And if you're dealing with precious water, collected in tanks or something, then that's pretty essential. That's about it. There's a fairly small intensive system set up for trying to produce greens through late spring and summer in very hot conditions, where most sane people would normally just give up and not try and grow stuff. But if you have to grow through these difficult conditions, that's the intense way of doing it. There's a less intense way of doing things which we might be able to show a different time.